Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to do a very fun faux weaving technique that you can achieve a couple of different ways. I'm starting with a page in my art journal, and this artist tape that I just love, I am making 2 vertical stripes and then 2 horizontal stripes. And the order that you put them down in does matter, which you're going to find out. And I'm taking a very soft brush and some golden open paint. And I am just basically ink blending, but with paint around all the tape as step 1. So whether you choose this method or the ink blending or the mark making that I will show you later, you do need to go around all the tape as your first step. So that sort of creates the structure for the weaving. And this is such a cool technique because it really looks three-dimensional and it really looks like something it's not. So you can do a fun single layer, clean and simple card that looks like it has a bunch of dimension and sort of a special effect look. Now I'm really using very little paint here. I chose this paint because it matched some of the colors in the tissue paper that I have down on this art journal page. But I really wanted it to be very softly blended, a lot like ink blending for the background of this page. So I'm barely picking up any paint at all with this brush, and I'm making sure that the brush is very dry. And so it's just applying a little bit of paint. Now here comes the fun part. So you need to decide which piece of tape is going to be over the other piece of tape, the masked area. When I'm referring to the tape, I'm talking about the masked area, and which piece is going to be under. And then you will alternate that so that it looks like the white spaces that you left by masking with the tape are actually woven together. So I decided on the first one that my horizontal would be the over piece. So I leave the horizontal mask down and blend around it. Now next to it, I'm going to want that piece to go under. So I will lift up the horizontal piece and I will mask the vertical piece. It's really important to sort of keep track of what you're doing. It's easy to sort of lose the pattern that you're going for. So I kind of look at it, reorient, and then I'm like, okay, so it went over for the last one. This one needs to go under. So that means that I need to mask the vertical and sponge around that, or use my paintbrush and my paint, whatever method out of this video you decide to use. And I'll show you several. So this is what's going to give the illusion of weaving, is you making sure that you preserve the over-under alternation when you're creating this pattern. This is so easy. This is not anything super fancy or involved, but it does involve you just like staying focused and remembering what you want. Now, since the top one I had made go on top for the horizontal, I'm going to make it go under to alternate vertically as well as horizontally by masking the vertical and shading around that on the one beneath the first one. So just check yourself as you're going along and make sure that you're keeping with the pattern. So that means on the one on the right, it'll alternate with both the one above it and the one next to it by being the over section. So you'll see what I mean when I reveal this. Now I love this tape. It's a great low-tack tape. You can use any kind of tape that is a low-tack tape, and it will work just fine. So now I will pull this over, pull up the vertical so that I can mask the horizontal to make that appear as if it's on top of the vertical. And then I will shade that with my paintbrush. This is a very easy technique. And like I said, it works in a bunch of different mediums, as you're going to see. So once that's all done, since I only have 4 intersections on this art journal page, and I do have this whole thing coated with matte medium, so the paint is going on really easily. So I'll remove the tape and you'll be able to see how it looks woven. So you can see top left, the horizontal is on top of the vertical. Top right, the vertical is on top of the horizontal, so it looks woven. And then on the left, the vertical's on top, and then on the right, the horizontal is on top. So let's recreate this with ink blending. I'm using the exact same tape, and I'm going to set up 4 intersections. Actually, I'm going to set up 6 intersections for this one. I'm using 3 different colors, so it's going to be easier to sort of cover a lot of ground with the initial ink blending. So put all your tape down and ink blend all over that. I'm using Gina K inks, and I'm using my Holy Trinity here. So a magenta, a yellow, and a cyan. And you'll want the entire card front to be covered. Don't leave any white space or it's not going to show you the 3D effect of the weaving. So I'll put a little blue in here, and then I'll go back at the top right and add a little bit more blue. So again, deciding that I want the horizontal to be on top for the first one, then I can skip a row and do the same on the bottom because I know those are going to alternate. That makes doing 3 of them super easy and quick. So same thing here, I'll pull back the horizontals, I'll mask the verticals, and this is super easy and basically done at this point. So you can pull back the center, you can adjust any blending that you need to adjust. Here I'm going over the verticals because I had only done the top and the bottom. And now this is really done, so I can remove all of the tapes. And behold, a beautifully woven over and under, very simple design. If you need to do any additional blending at this point, you can. The whites are so strong that they're going to stand out even if you ink blend over them. Now, I did want to show you kind of a Zentangle way to do this as well. First, I will ink blend a little bit of gray ink. I just have 1 intersection here. This is just to show you that this is another fun way to add shading besides just ink blending or adding paint. And that is with just mark making. So here I'm doing stippling. I'm using a Copic multi-liner, removed the vertical, ink blended the horizontal so that I could get the over look for that. And then I'll just enhance those gray ink blended shadows wherever I had applied ink with stippling with a Copic multi-liner. This is a super simple way to do mark making. Stippling is one of my favorite ways to do shading. And this will give you a completely different look while maintaining the over-under of the weaving, which I think is super fun. Oh, hi, Maddie. Maddie has decided to enter the chat. Sorry about that. She doesn't like it when I talk to the microphone. She thinks I should be talking to her. Get back, Maddie. So anyway, I left the horizontal in place so that I would have something to sort of bump up against with the marker. On the vertical, you can put the tape back if you want to feel more secure about making the marks around the tape. That's what I did because I didn't want to encroach on that kind of crisp white space that was preserved by the tape in the first place. And that's very easy to do if you're just doing repetitive motions like these little dots. You can your hand sort of twitches after a while and you can go into the white space where you did not mean it to be. This would be a fun technique for a bullet journal, art journal, anything like that where you wanted to create that little bit of dimension. And it really doesn't take very long. This was not a long process. Even though I've sped it up here, it still wasn't very long. So now I can reveal this, pull off the horizontal and the vertical so that you can see that sort of gift wrap present over and under feel that this has and see those teeny tiny details that just make it really interesting. So now I'm going to splatter the background with an acrylic spray, the one that I created before with the ink blending. And I will add a couple of elements. I didn't want anything too big because I didn't want to cover up the fun faux weaving pattern that I had. So this sort of all vertical element with this beautiful stamp I thought was good. And then I have a greeting that's like very close cut out with the die that will make it so that most of that isn't covered up. So to color the wheat in this image, I'm just adding the darks first, just very roughly. There's no blending, there's nothing. I'm doing this extremely quickly. And then I'll go back over the top of it with that lighter yellow. Now, when wheat is ready to be harvested, all of the foliage and everything is really the same color as the wheat at that point. And so that's how I'm going to color this image. Plus it ties, the yellow in the image ties it together with the over under faux woven background as well. So where I had applied the yellow ink, this will sort of color coordinate the entire thing. But this is a very easy image to color. And like I said, no blending necessary. I tried this card layout horizontal and vertical, but because the wheat is such a strong vertical image, I found that it just worked better in the portrait orientation than it did in the landscape orientation. But obviously you can do either one because the weaving works in either scenario. So now I'll color the foliage with the yellow marker, and then I'll do very minimal shading with that darker brown color, just sort of on the leaves where they start and end. But again, you really don't need to spend a ton of time coloring this image. The details are so beautiful. So I picked this Choose Joy sentiment and the little white splatters in the background I think are super fun. But I wanted to weave the Choose Joy into the wheat so that it comes out looking like this on my card front. I hope you've enjoyed this. Head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.